Wednesday night. This is the time putting on Likutei Pshatim, see if we can bring out the crowds for Kilayim. Thursday.
Now is the time.
Oh yes, I was tempted to say, come and join us for the hardest Masechta in Yerushalmi.
Whether you have like a Stipler son comparable for client.
Oh yeah.
Stipler son wrote a Yerushalmi client?
Yeah.
You did it all Yerushalmi?
No, but all of Zeraim and some of Moed. So all the hard stuff. Yeah, he's going in turn, going in sequence. There are good Perushim. I see the Chicago being what Chicago is. The one, I know. I'm willing to say that, I'll tell you. Chicago being what Chicago is, so I don't think we can get a hold of all this stuff, but Felix has good stuff, Perushim Kilayim. The botanist, which is very important work, very significant. I haven't seen it since I was in Shalvim years ago, but it's, if we could get a hold of that would be wonderful. But, we'll see. We'll plow through.
There's supposed to be a strike. My daughter was supposed to leave tomorrow, and she's leaving tonight because Bezek is calling on strike. It's going to affect the internet.
Yeah, the internet also. All internet connectors in Israel are in big trouble.
Calls to Israel.
Slow down. All right. I got through today. I called today. That's fine. All right. I'm Makabel Sadim. Perek Vav. What's the daf for wrong?
Chav
Him Rav. I'm Makabel Sadim Yisrael. Today it's a little bit of complicated Gemara. I'm Makabel Sadim Yisrael. You receive a field from Yisrael. Now, receive here means an oris. An oris works on percentages. Okay? He gets a percentage of the crop and gives the rest of the crop back to the owner. Makabel Sadim Yisrael from a Jew, or Minakum from a Goy, Uminakuti means from a Samaritan. Cholek Lifneim. He doesn't take off any Truvas and Maisras. He divides up the percentages in front of the owner, and of course, then later on in his own stuff, he takes off Truvas and Maisras on his own percentage. HaChoker Sadim Yisrael. Now, Choker doesn't take percentages. A Choker takes a certain amount, a set specified amount. An Ores is percentage. Choker is a designated sum. HaChoker Sadim Yisrael Torem V'noselo. Before you give the Jew his portion, the owner, you must take Truma off. Okay, not Meiser, but Truma. All these things are going to be discussed. Why the distinctions? Okay, so you have to give Truma. Now the truth is that I'm not sure this part will be discussed. Let me tell you what the Stipler's son here says. He says that there's a special halacha. You must take Truma off a silo as soon as possible. It seems Meiser, there is no. I assume it will come up somewhere in Shas, but don't know what it's based on. Meiser is more. How should we say it? Is less stringent than Truma. Truma you must take off the moment you have the opportunity. Okay, so therefore you have to give Truma. The Choker has to give Truma off even off that which is going back to the owner. Rabbi said, "Amos, I went this Trubas mancha no slomi osu sadim osamin." That's if you're paying. You're a Choker. You get a certain amount, and the owner gets a certain amount, right? I believe that actually you get anything above a certain amount, to be more precise. Yes. The owner gets a certain amount, and you get everything above that amount. So then, if that's the case, you don't really have to give him from this field. You can give him from somewhere else, right? You're supposed to give the owner X amount of bushels a year. So technically, the bushels can be from somewhere else. You don't have to give bushels from here. You go to another field and give bushels, right? So depends. Then it says Rabbi Yehuda. If you give no slomios or sodomios, meaning you're giving your obligation from that field and from that type, then all you have to do is give truma. But if you're giving the X amount of bushels that you have to give from another field or from another type, maser v'noisin. Now you have to take off truma, you also have to take off meiser. Now the reason is because then you're not kiporei lo chovo. Then it's not as if you're giving him his stuff back, you're paying him a debt, right? You're paying a debt from holdings. When you pay a debt, you're not allowed to pay debt with Tevel. So if you're giving from that field in and of itself, so it's more lenient because it doesn't look like paying off a debt. It looks like you're giving him what which belongs to him. So you have to take off before you give it to him is truma. But if you give him somewhere else, it looks like you're paying off a debt. You're paying off a debt. You have to pay off a debt with free and clear, not with any teva whatsoever. Okay? Says the Gemara. Hachoker, says Mishnah, Hachoker sada mina akum, if you take a field b'chakirus from a goy, meaning again you give the goy an X amount of bushels a year, ma'aser v'nosel, even by him you have to take off ma'aser before you give it to him. Why? Because you can't even be poreah your choiv to a goy based with tevel. Okay? Now you're even more machmir, even if you're giving him bushels from his own field, you have to be meiser and give it to him. And then the Gemara is going to deal with this. Oh, this is all midrabanan, sure. The whole mission is rabbanan. Rabbi Yehuda mer ava makabel sada avoisa mina akum meiser v'nosilo. This is a very interesting thing here. If you're an oris, makabel, right? You were a sharecropper on a field which once upon a time belonged to you, and now belongs to a goy. Your forefathers sold it to a goy. So Chazal fined you. They made you take trumas and meises off it before you gave to the goy. Now, in the rate, because this is obviously a fine, because in the ratio it said that if you're a makabel, so you don't have to give the goy anything. You just give him his percentage. Here we're making you give him a percentage. Why? Because we know it was your forefathers' field and you have a sentimental attachment to it. We want to give you a monetary incentive to fulfill that sentimental attachment. Therefore, we say, buy it back. And until you buy it back, what are we going to make you do? Give trumas umaisus off of it to the owner, to the non-Jewish owner.
Well, that's consistent with what we learned the other day in the previous parak about if you sell your land,
yeah,
you still
should buy back the bikurim. That was the bikurim in that case, right? Not trumas. Same idea, but it was bikurim, right? Okay. Rav Yehuda said, it's starting the Gemara. This whole mission is going to Rav Shin Gamliel. We'll see him momentarily. But according to Chachamim, if you're Israel, if you receive from a Jew, then cholik. You just give him his portion. You're not responsible for trumas and maasros. That's like our mission. That's no different. However, here's the difference. Mina akum. If you receive from a goy, torem, you have to give trumas to the goy. Well, I'm sorry, not to the goy. You have to give truma off the part which you're giving to the goy, which means you're coming out at a loss here. Why coming at a loss? Because you're going to have to take from your percentage and give the trumas on the stuff that you're going to give to the goy. And here it brings down to the stipler's son is that this is a knas. Why? In order that Jews will not. It's a fascinating knas. A very, very fundamental idea here. A fine-tuning Gzeira D'Rabbanan. They were very, very careful and meticulous in the Gzeira they made here. They made you take trumas off what you're going to give back to the goy, but not what? Not meiser. Why is that? So he explains here that we're making you take off trumas in order that it should be difficult for the Jew to find, for the non-Jew, to find Jewish sharecroppers. And this way, maybe he'll sell the field more readily. Why will it be difficult for him to find Jewish sharecroppers? Because every Jewish sharecropper has an additional expense of having to take truma of that which belongs to the goy, right? However, they didn't want to make it impossible for the goy to find a Jewish sharecropper, because then Eretz Yisrael would have fallow sections. They didn't want any of Eretz Yisrael to have fallow sections. So therefore, what did they not make you take off? Meiser. So it's a compromise in order to fulfill both values. The value of trying to make it difficult for the goy to find a sharecropper in order that he should sell. For that, they made the Jew take off truma. Yet at the same time, the value of not having Eretz Yisrael fallow, so therefore they didn't make you take off meiser. Okay? Interesting takana. Vitani Kane, and we have a brayso to this effect. Now here the Gra changed the next word from choker to makabel. In other words, an oris, not a choker. A makabel saw them in akum. Somebody who takes the field on a percentage basis from a goy. He has to take off truma before he gives to the goy. Okay, so that's clear. That's chachamim. Shigam is like our mission said. Maim yirtza akum hazeh shaloli trom perosa ve'eno rishai. What a goy if a goy doesn't want to give truma, is he still compelled to do so? Of course not, right? A goy's part is never mechuyev in truma. So therefore, Shigam svara is that if the Jew does not have to take off truma from that part which is going back to the goy, if you just give him his portion and leave it in front of him. Rabbi Zia and Rabbi Yochanan B'Shem Rabbi Yanai said, and this is off on a tangent, we'll bring it back to tie it in a minute. Rabbi Zia and Rabbi Yochanan B'Shem Rabbi Yanai said, Atem gam atem. You have a very famous drasha, which is you, this is in the parasha of Truma, l'rabo shluchachim. It teaches us that your agents have to be like yourselves. Because it says atem, and then it says gam atem, excess verbiage. Let's learn ma'atem b'nei bris, just like you are children of the covenant, av shluchachem, so to your agents, b'nei bris. They have to be members of the covenant. Atem, from this we learn, atem osim shliach, you can make a agent. Vein akum osim shliach, there's no agency by going. Now, Rabbi Yasa Sover Meima, Rabbi Yasa thought that meant Eina akum osim shliach biyat acher chavero. A goy cannot make another goy as an agent. There's no agency from one goy to another goy. However, but a goy can make a Yisrael his agent, right? A goy can make a Jew his agent, not another goy, but maybe a goy can make a Jew his agent. Rabbi Zira said, no. Umina, from the same pasuk we learn, atem, it should be atem, not oson. Atem osim shliach. You can make a shliach, velo be Yisrael, and not a. I'm not sure. Just a second. Atem osim shliach. I'm not sure to read this line now. Atem osim shliach v'lo b'Yisrael. It should be v'lo b'akum. Yeah, I'm not sure how to read it. Even looking at the parish now, I'm not sure how to read it. I think probably the gersa should be Atem osim shliach v'lo b'akum. You can make a shliach, not goyim. With the kavasah, so too aina akum osim shliach. A goy cannot make a shliach afilu b'Yisrael, even by a Jew. In other words, you have agency still. I'm still not comfortable with those words v'lo b'Yisrael. But I can translate the concept, but I don't know exactly how to read the line. So let's do it conceptually. In other words, you can make a shliach, but it's limited to another Jew, right? So to a goy, he's. I'm still not comfortable with it. I don't even know what it's saying conceptually now. But the idea behind the concept is that once it says atem gam atem, it bars akum altogether from shlichus. Not only from being agents, but also from appointing agents, even if they appoint to Yisrael as an agent. By anything. Anything. Goyim don't have agency by anything. Anything which requires an act of agency. In other words, transactions which require agents in order to accomplish, they don't have. There's no concept by Goyim. Okay? No, all right, obviously, it's not relevant, so they're not asking us, but that's the concept. Okay? So that's what it said. A Goy can make a shliach, even if it's going to be Yisrael as a shliach. Now, all this seems to be off on a tangent. Now we're going to tie it back in. Haysiv Rav Hoshia, Hoshia has kasha for Masdisa Messiah, L'Rabi, and the next word should be Yasa. Wait a minute. You just tried, Rabbi Zira just tried to reject Rabbi Yasa. Rabbi Yasa thought a guy can make a Jewish agent, just not a non-Jewish agent. Well, there seems to be a brisa which is a raya to Rabbi Yasa, the brisa which is quoted. Amar Rabbi Shimon Gamliel said, "Ma'im yirtza akum hazeh shelo litrom ein atorim." A guy doesn't have to give truma. True, a guy doesn't have to give truma. What's the flip side of that? What's the flip side of Shir Gamliel's statement? Shir Gamliel's saying is that the Jew should not take truma because the guy doesn't have to give truma. But let's think of the converse of that. What? That if a guy wants to give truma, he can tell the Jew, take off truma for me. So we see that a guy can appoint a Jew to take off truma for him. A guy has to have agency appointing a Jew to be his agent. That would be the flip side of Shir Gamliel's statement. Again, Shir Gamliel's statement is that guy might not want to give truma. But that sounds like if they do, they can appoint the Jew to be their agent. So it sounds to be like Rabbi Yasa, that there is agency when the guy appoints a Jew to be his agent. Rabbi Bo says that's a different case. That's b'ma'amin al yado. That's about a case where the guy is consenting. Ma'amin means trusting, but here means consenting. He's consenting al yadav right next to him. In other words, it's not that he appointed an agent, it's as if the Jew is an extension of himself. He didn't tell the Jew, go take off trumas. He's standing there. The Jew says to him, is this what you want to take off trumas? He said, yes. So it's not the same concept of agency, but rather it's more working together. They're working the fields together.
Who initiated the idea, though?
The goy. Okay, says the Gemara. Now the next word also is supposed to be changed. Ha-choker. What is a choker? Just definitions. What's a choker? Bepeiros. He gives a set amount of bushels to the owner each year. Hasocher, what's a tenant farmer? Bimos, he pays the owner a set amount of money each year. HaMekabel, what's a sharecropper? Lemechza l'shlishuravia, he gets a half, a third, or a quarter as his percentage each year. These are just definitions. Period. New issue. Ad Kedon, till now we've been talking about akum. We've been talking about how you deal with a guy, and we said in our Mishnah that we said it rather in the Gemara in the name of Chachamim that when you give to the guy, you give him truma. You have to take off truma, right? Again, because of that takona that you should find it difficult to find sharecrop. It's not impossible when you sharecrop from a guy, so you have to take off truma from your portion, from his portion. So it says more. What about kuti? Akum, we talk about kuti. We talk about akum. What about a kuti? In other words, we have the same relationship with, kuti in land of Israel as we do with kohen. Let's hear from the following case. Hanosin sadeu b'kabola, somebody who gives his field as sharecropping. La'akum to a goy, ulukuti, or to a Samaritan. These are the sharecroppers. And here, again, there's a major gears are changed by the Gra. Alpha P, these words are not even in the Gemara. Probably the Ritbaz brings them down. Alpha P shulo bo la'onas ha'maisrus. Even though you gave them to the guy prior to their being, or to the kuti, prior to their being mechuyev in maisrus, meaning before what? Before hava shlish. Before they grew a third. Tzorech laser. You have to meiser. We fine you. We don't want you to sharecrop out your field to a goy or to a kuti. If you did, even if you did it early in the game, before there was any chiyuv meisers, you got to take off meiser from everything which grows in the field. You, the owner, have to take off meiser from everything which grows in the field. Okay? Is that clear?
So that's more money?
It's a takon. No, it's a knas. You're mikrat in your potter. Because who grew the stuff? The goy or the kuti. But we zap you because we didn't want you to sharecrop out to a goy or kuti. Not nice, right? Now, what about the next case? Ulemi shelo nema maisrus. What if he didn't give it to a goy or kuti, but he gave it to somebody who's not credible in terms of maisrus? Okay? Gave it to a Jew who's somewhat not untrustworthy, right?
I think you're reading now is not in the Gemara at all.
Now I'm back in the Gemara. Ulemi sheino nema maisrus is back in the Gemara.
Oh, it can't go back.
Okay?
Yeah. Part of the text you were reading was ahead.
Oh yeah. Oh, so it's mixed up. It's reversed there. Okay. What if you give it to somebody who's not credible about maisrus? So then it's a different standard. If you gave it to him before it reached the third, Eno tzorech la'aser. It's not your responsibility. He's going to transgress. It's his problem, not yours. Eno tzorech la'aser al yodav. You don't have to ma'aser for it. Mishabolo and it's ma'aser once they reach the shiur which they're required in ma'aser. In other words, you gave them after it grew a third. Tzorech la'aser yodav. Then you're responsible to take off ma'aser. Okay, the owner. Ad kedun. This is all talking about v'makom sheYisrael mitzuyim, where there are Jews to whom you can sharecrop out your field. So we find if you give it to a guy. B'makom she'en Yisrael mitzuyim. What about a case where there aren't that many Jews? So they're not prevalent to be found. Nishmini minato. Let's understand what to do there from the following Maisa. Rabbi Simon, Hoylu Sodos Bahar Melech. Rabbi Simon had fields in Har Melech, which was a non-Jewish section of Eretz Yisrael. We had it a couple of blot ago. Shol Rabbi Yossi. So he asked Rabbi Yossi, what should I do? Amar Le, he said, Haviron, leave them fallow. Valtas Kireim Lakum, do not rent them out to a goy. Shol Rabbi Shimon Levi. He asked Rabbi Shimon Levi what to do. V'shor Rabbi Shimon Levi said he's allowed to rent them out to a goy. Sava Rabbi Shimon Levi. Rabbi Shimon Levi holds Makom she'ein Yisrael mitzuyin, a place even in Eretz Yisrael where there aren't Jews prevalent. Ke'ada Syria. It's like Syria, and Syria you're allowed to rent out or sharecrop out to a goy. Ke'ada Syria, and that in Syria you're allowed to sharecrop out to a goy. Nishmini me'adah. We can hear from the following statement. Rabbi Chagai nochis l'chometz. Rabbi Chagai went to the city of Chometz, which is in Syria. Don't know where it is nowadays. Aton Shalom lady came and asked him, Elaine Devar Ashtur. Those people live in Ashtur, another city in Syria. Begin to lazy so shchiche, where there aren't Jews prevalent. Vadam Mogrin Lamin. So we rent out our fields to non-Jews, tenant farmers. Do we have to meiser for their benefit? Do we have to meiser nonetheless? Now in Syria, there was a minute to give trumas and meisers, right? Because it's some chasing Eretz Yisrael, right? So do we have to meiser when we sharecrop out or rent out to goyim? Shol Rabbi Zira, so they went and asked Rabbi Zira. Shol Rabbi Zira, Rabbi Ami. Rabbi Zira asked Rabbi Ami. And you don't have to meiser for them. Mino at Shama. From here you derive also that laskir Rabbi Yossi, that you're allowed to rent out a field to a goy in Syria, like Rabbi Yossi said in Masechta Avodah Zarah, not here. Yes.
The standard as to what constitutes Makom She'en Yisrael.
What? It doesn't say. No, the standards are not mentioned. Now. But there's a question which we're going to start out with, which we never addressed outright, so I want to go back to that for a minute. The question we asked is, what's the status of a kuti? Right? We asked, when you sharecrop from a kuti, do you have to take truma off his portion, as when you sharecrop from a goy? We never addressed that outright, but we derived the answer from the portion we just learned. Because the Gemara we just learned, the Gemara has equated a kuti and a goy in sharecropping. Two. You're not supposed to sharecrop to a goy or a kuti. So from the fact that we learned you're not supposed to sharecrop to a goy or kuti, from this we derive that the same standards also apply in sharecropping from a kuti as from a goy. So just like when you sharecrop from a goy, you must give the truma on it. So if you sharecrop from a kuti in Eretz Yisrael, you must give the truma on it as well. Okay, the equation in terms of sharecropping to translates also reflexively to an equation in terms of sharecropping from. Okay? Alright, says the Gemara further. For od minada, we can also derive the this is something else actually. We can also derive that you're allowed to rent out to a guy. We can learn from the following case. Dom Rabbi Chanina Braid Rabbi Avo. Rabbi Chanina said, son Rabbi Avo said, Abba, my father, Rabbi Avo, Havaliuv, they had such case in Syria, so renting out to a guy. Shach Shal Rabbi Chia, He went to ask Rabbi Chil, Rabbi Yasa, Rabbi Yami, for in lay last Rabbi Yosi. They said that it's still allowed to rent out to a guy, just like Rabbi Yossi said. La'aser Yadain, from this we derive also, since it's permissible to do it l'chatchila, that if you did it, right, we don't fine you. La'aser Yadain, ain't a masir Yadain, nor at the meister if you did it, right? In Eretz Yisrael, we're not allowed to share, we're a place for Yisrael Mitzuyin, we're not allowed to share a crop out to a guy. If you share crop out to a guy, we fine you. That even if you share cropped out to them very early in the process, you also have to take the meiser off of it. But in Chutz Syria, we don't impose such fines. Okay? Period. New issue. You took a field to harvest. Now, you didn't grow it. It grew on its own. Not its own. It grew in the hands of the owner. You are receiving a field not from scratch to grow it, but rather at harvest time. You take it by yourself to be the oritz for the purpose of harvesting, right? Sada liktar. You receive from, I believe it's from a goy, if I'm not mistaken. No, the thing is even from a Jew. Let's see. Kim made a sada liktar. You receive the field to harvest. Bechitim, when it's grain. Ba'novin, you receive the field, livtor to harvest, and beyain to make wine. The zaysim receives the field, an olive orchard, limsok b'shemen to harvest and to make oil. Meiser v'noisen lo. You have to meiser before you give the stuff back to the. You give the portion back to the owner. No, this is by a goy. I was right the first time. This is what I about by a goy. You have to meiser when you give it back to him. Now the shaila is why here you even have to meiser. Why here it's not sufficient to take off just truma, right? Ischami, come see. Ad shelo zora. If he took the field, if he took the field before planting, then here in the Gemara it says Torah. But the Gra changes the girsa to Cholik. Because Torah, the truth is I'm not sure either girsa works. Achlo Zora Torah is going like Chachamim. Achlo Zora Cholik would be going like Rishon Gamliel, right? Because Chachamim are the ones who hold this takana that if you took a field from a guy, you have to be Torah mitz, right, before you give it back, because of the sharecropping, availability. Rabbi Shimon holds if you give it back to a guy, you don't have to do anything, right? You just cholik, you just give it back to him, you don't take truma off, because he doesn't hold that takana of availability of sharecropping. But be that as it may, there's a distinction here. Achlozar, if you take the field beginning of the process, either all you have to do is cholik, just give him his portion, or worst, be Torah. Mishazar, if you take a fully grown field, meiser, then you have to take off meiser. That's what we see over here, right? When you give it back to the guy, you have to take off meiser. Why the distinction? Why such a distinction? Amr Chanina said, I'll tell you why. Tiktu b'makabel. Really, we would have loved to actually make you take off meiser from a field which you sharecropped out from a guy. However, we couldn't have done that. Why? Because then what would happen? No sharecrop out from a guy. It would be late fallow. Right? So therefore, Tiktu Makabel Shelo Tover Eretz Yisrael. They left by a person, by a sharecropper from the get-go, they didn't make them take off mice in order so that Eretz Yisrael should not be fallow, in order there be people sharecrop. So either Cholek according to Rabbanan, or at the Cholek according to Rabbanan, the very worst, Torah according to Rabbanan. However, here, was the field fallow? No. When's the guy coming to sharecropping? At the end, right? It's already not fallow anymore, right? So, B'cham Hacha, it should be Zruahi. It's already planted. So they're here. We're just going to we're going to make you meiser as well. Right? We're going to sock it to you here, because anyway, we don't have to worry about it being fallow, because you only took it at the end stage regardless.
You're not worried that maybe just going to lie there, growing and eventually get spoiled?
No, the guy will for sure. No, he's not an idiot. The guy for sure is going to ensure it's going to be harvested somehow. No, now we're not afraid. What? Right, we're not worried about the next time. That's correct. Because it's the next time, so a guy will take it from the beginning, and he'll make sure, and when he'll only have to give truma, or might not even have to give anything. There's a special case, right? Next time, Adrabah, go take it from the beginning. Don't come in at the end. You're trying to profiteer. That we're not going to accept. Okay, new thing. Kibul imenu. Now here it's from a Jew. You sharecrop from a Jew. Sad eliktzor, a field to harvest. Same idea. You recall from Yisrael, field to harvest. B'shacharei, it should be shacharei shibolim. There's so many changes in here. Before the grain is fully grown. Shacharei means literally very early. So before the grain of
That's a good tonight.
I'm not sure I'm right about this. I wrote here in my margin that you're makabel from Yisrael. Let's see if that's true. Maybe I'm incorrect about that. Let's see. So you accepted it to harvest when it was very early in the process. There's still the grain is not fully mature yet. Anovim livtzor, or you accept upon yourself to harvest the field of grapes. It should be here also. There's a. I'm sorry. Livtzor. I misread it. It should be kivim enesada livtzor b'shachrei shibolim. Kama livtzor, or to harvest b'salei anovim, in baskets of grapes, which I also somehow indicates somehow early in the process. I'm not sure how. Zeisim limsok, or olives to harvest, b'salei zeisim, in buckets of olives. So meniach kimo shehein. In this case, you when you harvest it, you leave them in their buckets, and you don't have to meiser them. Now, I understand now what's going to happen. Okay, I understand now, but Sali Anovi, how that indicates it. Sali Anovi means it didn't ripen on the tree. You're going to leave it in baskets, and it's going to ripen in the baskets. The olives didn't ripen on the tree. You're going to leave them in baskets, and they're going to ripen in baskets. So these cases are cases where you're meisering before it's fully mature. You're harvesting before it's fully mature. So in this case, you're exempt altogether. Meniach kimo shehein. You leave them as they are. In other words, you give them to the Baal Bais, you don't have to meiser them. I'm not sure. I don't know. That's to the end of that statement. Again, I'm not sure if it's going by Yisrael, it's going by Goy. It's not clear to me. Does Ribad say anything about whether it's talking about by Yisrael or Goy in this case? Okay, so I don't know. I'm not sure. I'm not sure it's going to Yisrael or Goy. All right. But in any event, the bottom line is, since you're giving it back to giving it to the owner of the field before the Chiyuv of Meiser devolves upon it, because it's not mature, so therefore not mechayiv you to meiser it. Okay, probably could be going by it must be going by a goy as well, because we know that by a goy you have to meiser. Truth is, it probably is going by a goy, because it's talking about we're coming off of the statement before that when you accept a field to harvest, that even from a goy you have to meiser before you give it back, right? So here it's coming to saying that's only if you accepted the harvest when it's fully at term. When it's the Chiyuv Meises has devolved. So he can't say you should take off the Meises. But if you're harvesting it before that, and it's going to be left to mature later on, so then we don't mechayiv you to take off the Meiser. I think that's the pshat. All right, let's go further. Now, it's going back to our Mishnah. It said if you give the goy from that min, from that sodeh, you're a choker. You give the goy from that min, from that soda, you don't have to take off the meisers, right? Because you're not being poreh, you're choy. You're giving that which it is. So what about homi osa mit shlomi osa soda? What about you give him wheat, but not from that field, or vice versa? Milsa soda, you give him from that field, but shlomi also not from the original agreement, which is wheat. You give him barley. What about those cases? Meiser v'noisen lo. You have to meiser before you give it to him. Why? Because then it looks like you're parei chov by tevel, right? Tani Rabbi Chia, I think it's Rabbi Chia. Rabbi Chia said, "Me'oso asodeh." When you're taking from that same field, whether it's from the same type, from another type, all you have to do is all you have to do is take off truma and not meisers. Why? Because it doesn't look like you're being redeemed, you're fulfilling your obligation with tevel. However, misad acheres, if it's from another field, ben meosamin, ben min acher. Oh. This was pretty cold here. Whether it's from that same type or from another type, then meiser v'noisen lo. That already looks like paying your obligation with tevel, and you have to take off meiser before you pay back from that stuff from the other field. Masnisin, our Mishnah, which says that even from that. Our Mishnah, which only said that if you give him from another field or from another min, you have to meiser, which sounds like if it's from the same field, even if it's another min, or another min, or the same min, even if it's from another field, all you do is take off truma. That's like Rabbi Shimon Gamliel. Madatani chachol Rabbi Chia. That Rabbi Chia said that no. Even if it's on the same field, if it's a different min, or if it's the same min, even if it's the same min, if it's on a different field, you have to meiser. That's kichachomim. Says Mar Pliga. Where do we have such a machlokas? I wasn't aware that Chacham and Shulchan will argue. So really, they don't argue. That's more. There's no machlokas. Rather, there's no machlokas at all between Rabbi Chia and Chacham and anybody else in our Mishnah. Asira Masnisin, we can set up the two cases of being what? At all. Everybody agrees. How so? Asira Masnisin b'mokom ploini. Our Mishnah is talking about a certain place. Nogu sorin kiflain kachitim, where when they pay off with barley, they pay off double the amount of wheat. Okay? So therefore. One second. I think I quoted the Mishnah wrong a minute ago.
Okay. Then you do not have the second step. You only have the finish question. She became the father accepted the guest. Well, that's probably why.
Yeah, I quoted the Mishnah wrong. Sorry. Let's go back a couple lines. Let's go back to Tanya Reb Chia. Reb Chia said, "Me also started ben me also mean ben me nacher. All you have to do is turn v'noisen lo." From the same field, from that field, whether you're giving wheat or barley, all you have to do is take off truma and give it to him, not meiser. Our Mishnah did not say that. Our Mishnah was more machmir than that. I said that the Mishnah being more makel. The Mishnah is more machmir. The Mishnah says even if it's on the same field, if it's a different min, you got a meiser before you give it, because it looks too much like being porei chov b'tevel. Okay? Our Mishnah is more machmir. Rabbi Chia said if you give from the same field, it doesn't matter if it's sorim or chitim. Whatever you give, you could just take off truma, not meiser, when you give it to him. Our Mishnah said if you're not giving the same min, you have to take off meiser before you give it to him. On that, the Gemara says, Asina Masnisin. And by the way, the Gemara identifies our Mishnah as Shimon Gamliel. It's really Rabbi Yehuda made the statement in our Mishnah, but it's Rabbi Yehuda according to Rabbi Shimon Gamliel, because Rabbi Shimon Gamliel is the one who holds Cholek, whereas Rabbanan are the ones who hold Torah. All right, but that's really a peripheral issue. Be that as a man, see him, asisim, and welcome ploni. Armor is going in a certain place. Noglu aso sorin kiflain kachitim. Where if you pay back barley, you pay back double the wheat. For wheat, you'd pay 15 bushels to the owner. If you pay barley, you give 30 bushels. So even if it's the same field, it's not the same proportion. So therefore, it looks too much like being pareach chov b'tevel. Even if the barley grew in this field, since when you pay with a different portion than wheat, it looks like pareach chov b'tevel. Whereas Madatani, Rabbi Chia, that which Rabbi Chia taught us, is Remokum Shnagu Lasos Sorim Chachitim, is in a place where when they pay back barley, they pay back the same amount as wheat. So therefore, it's from both of them. You give the same amount of bushels. Therefore, they said that by both of them, it doesn't look, really whether you give back wheat or barley, it doesn't look you're being Poreach Chol B'Tevel, and therefore all you have to do is take off Truma at worst, or according to Rabbanan, and according to Shimon Gamliel, just give it to him, be cholek without even taking off Truma. Okay? So again, it depends on measures. We're introducing a new factor, new element. Measure, amount, besides type and besides field. That even if it's a different type, if it's the same measure, paying back, all you have to do is pay back. All you have to do is take off Truma, not Meiser, because it doesn't look like being Pareh B'Tevel. If you're giving back more barley than you give back wheat, then in that case, you have to take off Meiser before you give it to the guy, because it looks like you're being Pareh Chol B'Tevel. Right, whatever the minhag HaMakom is, right. Okay. Hochat Amar Torem V'Nosein Lo. Here you say that by somebody who takes from a Jew. Now we are talking about a choker. Somebody who's choker from a Jew, Torem V'Nosein Lo. He takes off Truma and then gives it to the owner of the field. V'ka by a choker from a guy, Meiser V'Nosein Lo. You have to Meiser before you give it back to him. Not an oris, a choker. We're more severe on a choker than oris. An oris might only have to give troma or perhaps nothing at all, depending whether you're Shingam or Chachamim. A choker's got a meiser. Says the Gemara, Yochanan. The Hebraian named Rabbi Yochanan said, Kotzu Chachamim b'choker min akum. Chachamim were made a knas by somebody who's choker min akum. So they find somebody who took a chakirus from a goy, the low kotzu choker misro. However, they are not choker, weren't kones. Somebody is choker from Yisrael. So the minimum you have to take off is truma, because truma's got to be taken off immediately. But not meiser. Meiser should really choker doesn't have to take it off. Meiser responsibility of the owner, not the responsibility of the choker. Why they make it take it off when it's from a goy? A knas. We don't like people being choker minakum. Okay, it's not clear why not, but we don't like it. However, that's one reason. That's Rabbi Yochanan's opinion. Chavrai named Rabbi Yochanan. Rabbi Law, b'shem Rabbi Yochanan. Rabbi Law named Rabbi Yochanan said the exact opposite. Tofsa midas adin v'choker minakum. The midas adin takes effect when you're choker minagoy. What does midas adin mean? You have to take off meiser. A choker must take off meiser. That's the midas adin. According to Chachamim, that which you take off meiser when you choker from a guy is a knas. According to Rabbi Law named Rabbi Yochanan, that which you take off the meiser when you take it from give it to a guy is the midas adin. That's what you must do. Why is that? So he brings down here on the bottom. A choker is more like a parechov. A choker looks much more like a person's being pareach chovo than an oris. Why is that? Because a choker gives a set amount of bushels. It's not a percentage. So it looks like he's paying back to the owner. By an oris, since an oritz divides up percentages with the owner, it looks much more like the owner is getting that which is rightfully his, right? Because everything is percentage-wise. By a choker, you're giving him a set payment. What?
It's like rent. Rent is a set payment.
Are you allowed to give rent from Tevel? No. That's the point, exactly, being Pareh Chov. It happens to be that it's like Shavik Esef. Right. In other words, you just made the point. Okay? So that's what Rabbi Law is saying in neighbor Rabbi Yochanan. Tafsa mida sadim b'choikim and hakum. By a choikim and hakum, you really must pay. You really have to take a ma'aser because you're being Pareh Chov. You're like a tenant. You're being Pareh Chov from Tevel otherwise. The lo tafsa b'choikim Yisrael. However, by a choker Yisrael, we had rachmanas on you. We didn't apply midas adin. Why? We said, you're a poor choker, all you have to take off is truma. You should have to take off mice as well. We'll rely on the Yisrael, who's the owner of the field, who's getting the payment from you, that he should take off the meiser. That's a magnanimous gesture vis-a-vis the choker. Okay? So now we have a polar machlokas. According to the Chevraya named Rabbi Yochanan, really all you have to do, all choker has to do is take off truma. They can't say the choker minakum that he has to take off meiser. According to Rabbi Law named Rabbi Yochanan, no. Really, a choker has to take off meiser, and that was the midas adin, and that applied by a goy. A choker misro mi meiko. Choker misro, we said what? All you have to take off is truma, not meiser, because we imposed that on the owner to rachmonas on the choker. Okay? Says the Gemara, masisa Messiah l'dain, umasisa Messiah l'dain. We have a raya both for each one, both for Chevraya and for Rabbi Law. Masnis, now here the Girsa is all messed up. Ready? Totally messed up. The read Baz changes the Girsa. Masnisa Messiah le Rabbi Law. First we'll bring the Brisa, which is a raya for Rabbi Law. Ha-choker sodeh, some use choker sodeh, min ha-Yisrael. See how it's all messed up? If your choker appealed from Yisrael, toirim v'noisim lo. All you have to do is take off truma before you give it to him. Rabbi Meir oimer meiser v'noisim lo. Rabbi Meir says, no, you have to meiser before you give it to the owner. Ha-rabbanin, now, ha-rabbanin omrin, what do the rabbis hold? The rabbanin. Kantu chachamim b'choker mina akum. Do you think that they hold that we are choker, that we are koines, we are choker mina akum, v'lo kantu chachamim b'choker mi Yisrael, whereas we were not koines by a choker mi Yisrael, which would be what Chevraya would say. That can't be. Why not? It should be Rabbi Meir Omer, because that would come out Rabbi Meir Omer Af Konsumi Yisrael. It would come out that Rabbi Meir is being kones from Yisrael. In other words, Rabbi Meir's shita would not make sense according to the Chevraya. The Chevraya would have to say that Rabbanon are saying you're kones Yisrael, go to blokech minagoy, chokim minagoy, not from Yisrael. That's fine. But then Rabbi Meir, who says you have the meiser, even that which give you Yisrael, what's your shita? That we content a choker mi Yisrael? This brisa makes no sense according to Chevraya. According to Chevraya, how do you understand Rabbi Meir's shita? How can Rabbi Meir possibly, we have to meiser that which you give to Yisrael? You're going to consent? Chevraya holds that which we make you pay up meiser to a guy. Meiser, when you give to a guy, is a knas. So Rabbi Meir would say you're going to consent when you give to Yisrael. That makes no sense. How can you possibly say such a thing? Is there a knas by Yisrael? So Eloha, it's clearly, in this case, hakeni. This is the way to look at it. Rabbanan Amrin, Rabbanan say, now here the Ridbaz adds the word lo. Lo tafsa midas adin b'choker miYisrael. Rabbanan hold that by choker miYisrael there's no midas adin, meaning we had rachmanis on you, like Rabbi Law said, and you don't have to take off meiser. Let the Yisrael owner take off the meiser. Rabbi Meir Omer, and Rabbi Meir says, and again the Ridbaz takes out the next word in ein. It says Rabbi Meir Omer. Tafsa midas adin b'choker miYisrael. No rachmanis, since it looks like you're being pareh b'tevel. So therefore, you yourself have to take off the meiser even when you pay back from Yisrael. That's the right to Rabbi Law. Now we have a Masisa which is Messiah, and here the Gersa changes again to Chevraya. We have a Brisa which is Raya Chevraya. What's that? Hachoker Soda Min Akum. If you take a field Chakirus from a guy, Meiser V'Noisilo, you have to Meiser give it to him. Rabbi Shimon Omer, Rabbi Shimon says no. Torah V'Noisilo, all you have to do is take off Truma and give it to him. Now, here too, we're going to ask a question and come to the proof. So how would you analyze this? Would you say, could you interpret this like Rabbi Law? Wouldn't work like Rabbi Law. If you interpret it like Rabbi Law, this is how you'd have to look at it. You'd have to say Rabbanan say that Midas Adin applies to Chokim and Akum. And therefore you're making Meiser. The lot of Midas Adin Chokim Yisrael, whereas if you're Chokim from Yisrael, Midas Adin is not applying, therefore you don't have to take off Meiser. What if you take off his Truma? Okay, but then, that's fine Rabbanan, but what does Rabbi Shimon hold? Rabbi Shimon says all you have to take off when you give to a guy is Truma. Rabbi Shimon Omer lo tafsa midas adin mechoker min ha'akum. Rabbi Shimon would say that we're makel on you when you're choker min ha'akum, that all you have to do is take off Truma, not Meiser. Is barnach the yemer adam milsa? Could somebody possibly say such a thing? In other words, if you're going to say Rabbi Law's shot in this, that it's a concept of tafsa midas adin and not tafsa midas adin, that the midas adin requires you to Meiser. It's just a rachmanis on you. When you give to Yisrael, we say, when you choker from Yisrael, the Yisrael owner he'll take off the chakirus. If that's the case, how do we understand Rabbi Shimon? Rabbi Shimon says, no, when you give it to Goy, also we had rachmanis on you. Why do we have rachmanis on you in that case? The only reason rachmanis on you when you choker from Yisrael is because we know the Yisrael owner will take off the meiser. But here there's no reason to have rachmanis on you. The Goy is not going to take off the meiser. So we cannot understand Rabbi Shimon based on Rabbi Law's principles. How can you understand Rabbi Shimon? Elohachni. Only in this fashion. We'd have to say, Kotzu Chachamim, that what Rabbanan Shita is, that we're kindness b'choker min hakum, that we took a fine for you when you're choker min hakum, v'lo Kotzu Chachamim b'choker Yisrael. Like the Chevraya said, that really, no matter who you give it to, all you have to do is take off Truma. There's a special fine when you choker from a guy that you have to take off Meiser as well. So therefore, this is the way we'd explain it. That, again, Chachami were koines b'choker Yisrael. Rabbi Shimon Omer lo kotzu chachamim b'koines min ha'akum. Rabbi Shimon says chachamim are not koines when you're choker from a goy. He didn't agree with that svara of constantly. So now let me reiterate this outside. According to Rabbi Law, it looks like chakirus looks like being poreh chov b'tevel. So therefore, according to Rabbi Law, you really should always have to take off meiser. When don't you have to take off meiser? When you were choker Yisrael. Why? Because we had rachmanis on you. We said let the other Yisrael take it off. Rameir holds no pity. Rameir holds even if you take it from a Jew, you have to meiser it, right? No pity here. You have to take it off, even from Yisrael. That's Rabbi Law's perspective. Chavraya hold no. It's even a choker is not mechse like poreh chovo with tevel. Why? Because Lamaisa, a choker is like an oris to a great extent, and therefore, since he's like a sharecropper, therefore he doesn't look like he's being parecho b'tevel. So therefore, all really you have to take off is truma, right? Don't take off meiser. It's just that we find you, if you put choker from a guy, you have to take off meiser as well. And Rabbi Shimon comes along and says, no, we didn't find you. It's not such a terrible aver to be choker min hagoy, and therefore he says, even if you're choker min hagoy, you'll have to take off his truma, not meiser. Okay? New issue. Lefichach im chazer akum v'nizgayer. This is going back in our Mishnah, where we draw a distinction between a choker from a goy and a choker from Yisrael. Okay? And he says here, since there's a difference, Im Chazer Akov and Yisgayer, what happens if the guy who owned, from whom you're choker became Jewish? O Shabachon Yisrael Acher, or he sold it to a Jew, to another Jew, right? The owner sold his field to a Jew. Then, in that case, and here the gears of Taylor changes again, shouldn't be mutter, should be rather toireim. All you have to do is take truma. You have to meister it. So that's all brisa. This whole statement of lefichach until toireim is all brisa. Okay, let's analyze that. Mandamar tafsa, according to Rabbi Lowe, says the question of tafsa midas adin nicha. Okay, that's good, right? Because now this midas adin doesn't apply anymore. Because who has it now? Yisrael. Either because the goy was nisgayer or because it was sold to Yisrael. Yisrael has it. So midas adin doesn't apply. We have the rachmanis. All the choker has to give is truma, not meiser. But madamar konsu. But going to madamar holds konsu. The Gra adds the word konsu k'knoso biyado. So he adds another word k'knoso. Going madamar konsu k'knoso biyado. What's the problem? Why are we koines? Because you did something wrong. What did you do wrong? You kurchoiker from a guy. That knas should stick to you. Even if now the guy was nisgayer, even if now the guy sold it to a Jew, we're canceling you for what you did wrong. What did you do wrong? You took a field from a guy as a choiker. That's bad. So you should still be chayav to give the meiser, not just the truma. The Gemara does not answer this question. Rabbi Yochanan said, getting back to our Mishnah, explain the last line in our Mishnah. Our last line in our Mishnah said that that when you're taking from a field of your avoisov, so then you have to give trumas and meisers, right? You have to give trumas and meisers, not just truma. Why? So says Rabbi Yochanan, expanding that line. I mean, seeker showing you're being sharecropping the field back from a bandit. Since now he has to meiser it, not just take truma off of it. So he's going to push himself to the limit and try and redeem it. In other words, again, as I said in the Mishnah, to the sentimental value, we had a monetary incentive that since you have to meiser, so therefore it's more likely you're going to give it, you're going to try and redeem it. Okay, I think we'll stop here for tonight, even though we fell a bit behind. It's a little bit hard tonight, so those are the breaks. Okay?